Hello, my name is Joan Capurro, and it is my pleasure to host this segment of the Marin Women's Hall of Fame show. It's hard to imagine Marin County without the work of countless women shaping the life, culture, mores, and landscape of Marin County, from a Frank Lloyd Wright designed civic center to high-quality public schools, artworks downtown in Santa Fe, vast areas of open space, innovative businesses, and a robust network of nonprofits. Women have put their mark on Marin County. And Marin women's contributions go beyond our county. Honorees have been in space, to the Arctic, created social changing films, served in the U.S. Senate, and helped integrate holistic medicine with Western medical practices. Since 1987, the Hall of Fame has inducted over 125 women of distinction. And today it is my pleasure to introduce Linda Davis, who was inducted in 2011 for her work in community service. And she's my friend. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you, Joan. Nice
Thank
to see you.
Good to see you, too. Okay, I have some good questions for you and anxious to hear your answers.
Okay.
Where did life start for you, and what were some of your early influences?
Life started for me in Coral Gables, Florida, a doctor's hospital. And I grew up mostly in Miami, Florida, spending a lot of summers in Philadelphia with my family. My early influences, one was my mom, because my mom was my first role model. She was a mother, but she also worked my whole life. So it was my first example of you can have it all. You can be a mom that takes care of 4 kids and also have a career.
Sounds like you.
Yeah, except I only had 2. I never made it to 4. I started too late. Other influences were, because during the 70s, I listened to a lot of music with those headphones on.
Right.
So a lot of my early influences was listening to the messages of some of the great musicians of the 70s. And probably later, as I got into college, was around the women's movement. So people like Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan and people like that really influenced me quite a bit.
That's great. And that comes in handy in the work that you're doing, too.
Yes, it does.
Yes, you came of age in the 70s, and you self-identified as a hippie and activist for a variety of issues, from feminism to the Vietnam War and the environment. So looking back, how did that time play a part in shaping the person you are today?
I feel really lucky to have been a part of that time. There was a lot happening during that time. I didn't know it at the time, how rich that period was.
Right.
it made me who I was, because I was, and I still am, although people don't believe it, a very shy, not really confident person back then. And having a cause bigger than myself gave me a level of comfort. So I really was very active in the women's movement, was very active in environmental movements back then, somewhat in the civil rights. It was a time that I was learning how to be very independent. I was very rebellious. I marched. I didn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and got in trouble in high school. And I don't know for sure if I knew what I was doing back then, but that period was just a very rich time about discovering what the needs were in our community that we live in and doing something about it.
Well, that makes you perfect for the job you have.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that goes on that you need to understand, and you see the bigger picture. I've seen that working with you over the years. I mean, that sounds rich. I almost wish I certainly wish I was born in that time, come to think of it. You've said the experience of losing your first husband and your best friend made you a better person.
Yeah.
So how can you explain that?
I met my husband my first husband when I was in Florida, and he played a very important role in my life, and we moved out here together, and he died very suddenly, and it was living through an experience of someone close to you dying, it can't help but change you.
That's right.
I took advantage of it. I had a lot of questions, starting with, where the heck did he go? I remember flying back because I was out of town, looking out the airplane window going, are you out there? Where did you go? So I really started reading a lot of books, talking to a lot of spiritual leaders, just thinking about how short and precious life was. And it was during that time also that my best friend was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And death is very scary and sudden, but if you allow it to be, it's very empowering, because you learn and appreciate things that you take advantage of on a day-to-day basis. And it just made me a better person in so many ways. It also made me braver, and it also taught me how to talk to other people that are suffering, and how to listen. The most valuable experience in that time was I learned how to be a better listener. I learned how to be interested instead of interesting, and that one thing changed me forever.
Well, that explains a lot about why you've had such success at CVNL.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, that's amazing. I didn't know that about you either, so that's really interesting. But you had great insight and perception to see it that way, because people take things in a different way. So your mom was a great role model.
You know, it's funny because I think my siblings are much smarter than I am, book smart. I was not a great student. I could not stand high school. I couldn't wait to get out. I was on the work program. I did the basics, and then I went to work. I really feel like I learned everything I know out on the street, and by experiencing it, not through education, which I still am really big on education. My kids have master's degrees. They're smarter than me probably, but don't tell me that. I really learned. I came of age by dealing with some of the political issues.
Well, life experiences.
Yeah, life experiences, yeah.
Education is very important, but a lot of people don't possess what you do possess.
Yeah.
You need to, experiencing the kind of things you went through did make you a stronger person. And I feel like you did. I wasn't all that great in school, but street smart.
Yeah. And back then there wasn't a nonprofit degree.
No.
My degree is in art history and women's studies, because of the women's movement really did shape me. Nowadays, you can actually study nonprofit work as a profession, which I think is fabulous, because it is a profession.
It is.
But I just kind of ended up there.
I think in Marin we might have as many businesses as we do nonprofits.
Yeah, close. Not quite. Not quite.
But that's fabulous.
Thank
good for you, and good for you for your sons having master's degrees.
Yes, thanks.
Well, I know your family plays a central role in your life. So like many women, you've always worked outside the home. Do you have some secrets to share in balancing all the competing demands in your life between work and home?
I can't lie. It was really hard. My kids are 14 months apart, but I knew from the day they were born I was not a stay-at-home mom. In fact, I was resentful even for the few days I did have to stay at home. But I know a lot of people that find that that's where they should be, and I don't judge them for that. I think you have to know and do what's right for you.
That's right.
I needed to be at work. And it was hard. I drove really fast because I had to pick them up, and I didn't want to be late for day school. And then from the time they were 6, they were both in different sports. So For
Oh.
12 years, we just divided and conquered every single weekend. My husband would go with one, and I would go with the other. We put a lot of time. He did we had our part, He did he did the math and science. I did the writing and volunteer work. They volunteered from a
Right.
very early age. We got the values in them, and then when they got to high school, they were like normal grown-up people that I could have political conversations with. I'm really quite proud
you
of
trained
them.
them.
I'm very proud of how they turned out, but it was hard.
Yes.
But there was something my father said to me when I was young, a young mom. He said that if you look back on this period of time, when you look back on this period of time, you will remember it as your favorite time. When I was like complaining about driving here and doing that and this,
Right.
and he was right. I look
Yes.
back on that time as my favorite time, being with my kids, doing those things. It was just, so perfect.
I can relate to so much that you say, because my mother had a large family, and she said, when we all got older, she said, I wish you were back to being the younger age. But I think that has to do with control.
Yeah, I am a control freak.
being able to deal with it.
Yeah.
But I'm amazed at some of your answers, because I can so relate to a lot of it, even though I had no children. But you have used those skills, because I've seen it, being on the Center for Volunteer and Nonprofit Leadership for 6 years, the board. I watched what you did, and I saw a lot of mother instincts in you as you ran those things. But you know what? That's what needs to be done, and you're great at that.
Thank you.
And you were great at. You had your 50th anniversary, right?
Yes.
For the CVNL.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that, because I was there, and it was absolutely fabulous
Yes.
and really full.
Blessed to be a part of the organization at this
Right.
50 years, because 50 years for a nonprofit is quite an accomplishment.
It is.
I wish. When I at the event, I said I'm celebrating my 50th
Yeah,
again.
I
and
thought it was your birthday.
I actually got a few birthday cards afterwards. It actually wasn't my birthday, but it's nice that people think I was just 50. It's quite an accomplishment. The organization has changed. I've been there 12 years now, and we started as a volunteer center and an organization bringing executive directors together. And our work has evolved to try and stay relevant with the needs of the nonprofit sector. So we've added search practices and consulting services and leadership programs, so that we're constantly building the leaders of the future. Our work is a lot about how to strengthen the work of the professionals and professionalizing the field of the people who work there.
Right.
And then
Right.
keeping people engaged in the community through volunteer service.
But you're keeping the CVNL up to date. I mean, you move forward. You're not an old-fashioned back in the woods. You have to always change if you want to be a successful nonprofit. You have to go with what the times are.
Yes, creativity, innovation, relevancy is my favorite word, because
Yes.
you have to stay relevant and ahead. In the work we do, because we're an association of many nonprofits, we have to almost be ahead of it to look for those trends, so that we can report back to people and say, here's what's coming.
You're a stronghold in Marin. And I think one of the things I really loved about your 50th anniversary is how you recognize the people who were still
past.
around from the past,
Yeah.
who were executive directors there when it was volunteer section, and then the other one was for agencies. So you've brought all that together, but what's important is not to forget those important people who started
Yes.
it. You did a great job of that.
History is what gets us where we are.
Right.
And so I'm lucky to have stood on the shoulders of the people who came before me. And I actually was the one that called most of those people, because I wanted them to feel good about being part of where we are.
Yes.
That was great to have those folks there.
And you had old, but not in age, but old board
Yes,
members.
former
flowers.
former board members,
wearing
former
one color
executive
flower.
directors. Yes, yes.
I mean, I think that was that's the way it needs to be, because if everything has to be collaborative. If all the nonprofits work together with you, because I see you as CVNL as the umbrella, then the success happens to everybody. So it's collaboration and friendship that really makes it happen. So
Yes.
you are excellent in that.
I'm glad that came across.
Oh, it did.
It was
Oh,
a nice
yes.
celebration.
Let's see, you've been in leadership positions in Marin County since the mid-90s. You were CEO of the Mill Valley Chamber of Commerce. That's the first time I met you.
Yes, right.
And now CEO for the Center for Nonprofit and Volunteer Leadership. So what would you share with younger women about leadership that you maybe haven't so far?
Actually, even prior to those, I was with the Marin Child Care Council as a associate director, and with Planned Parenthood of Marin, Sonoma, Mendocino in development and marketing. So I was a fundraiser as a career for quite a while, and that's a great background before I even took over the chamber. And the chamber job was really because I wanted to be an executive director, and nobody would give me the chance because I didn't have it in my job title. And the first opportunity was a chamber But it really wasn't, while I enjoyed the politics of it, I really wanted to get more into a more traditional nonprofit. So
Right.
I think the most important thing is mentoring. I take great honor and pride in making sure that I am constantly mentoring younger women, particularly on staff. I was mentored by somebody when I was very young. I think that young women need to have models and examples, but also people that they could talk to. I also think they need to find their voice and do what's right for them and not what somebody else thinks that they should be doing. And the most important thing is to never stop learning. Life is all about
Amen.
professional development, learning, never stop, whatever that looks like to you. It's taking it all in, but also having that peer support and that mentor that you can look up to.
You know, it's funny, I was going to say to you one time, it seemed like there was a bit of a turnover at your place, but then I realized one day in looking at those people, they had all moved up to something else. So you walk your talk.
There's a lot of people at the organization that are now executive directors or in other organizations in different roles. And I really feel good if they stay in the nonprofit sector.
Yes.
I don't require them to, but I love when they come through and they learn and move on. I wasn't so good about that when I was younger. I kind of was resented when people left. Now I consider it like I did my job.
That's
if
exactly
somebody,
right. Actually, the sign of a good leader is to see somebody go up above them, if you will.
Yes,
So
yes.
good for you.
Thank you.
CV&L has certainly grown and expanded during your tenure as CEO a lot. So what would you like people to know about CV&L, changes in the organization that occurred under your leadership, besides what we've already talked about? Can you?
I think our role is really to continue to innovate and stay current and to develop the tools that people need. It's a challenging time since the economy tanked in 2008, and a lot of organizations are suffering. But I also like to keep top of mind that nonprofits are in business to go out of business. We are here to solve problems, and a lot of the problems, unfortunately, that we have won't be solved. But that's the end goal: is to solve the issue that we've been put into existence. So our work is just to figure out ways to make people better and more successful. And even if that means closing, to help them do that in a way that works for the community. That's our work, and it is a lot about leadership training, and it's a lot about engagement of board members. A lot of the work we do is around board governance and board engagement, and keeping the community involved.
That's really important work. We've used you. I know the Bank of Marin used you for some work that changed some people's lives at the bank, and how they saw a board position, take it more serious. So
yeah, we pride ourselves in working not just with nonprofit leaders and their staffs, but the board, even the business world, the business leaders, because they're mostly all on boards, or we do corporate projects to engage them in volunteer service. So we try and touch on all parts of what make the community a community, and then have done some newer things around some of the transition and consulting work.
well, and you know this for a fact, and I know it having been a career woman, that an employee who volunteers is a better employee. They feel better about themselves. They do a better job, and then they admire their business because they are out there doing this kind of work and allowing them time. So,
Yes.
but you're the queen of knowing that.
Wow. It's nice when businesses realize that it's not just it makes people feel better that they work for a company that cares about the community. And some of the work we do now, where we're bringing projects into a business so they can do it together as team building.
Right.
They get a sense and they feel good about helping, but they feel pride in who they work for. Yes.
That's absolutely right. You're such a cheerleader. I watch you at the human race breakfast usually that you throw. You're up there like some kind of a cheerleader, getting everybody going.
Yeah. I do try to do that.
You were a cheerleader, I'll bet.
No way.
Really? Oh my goodness.
No.
Well, Marin County has lots of nonprofits. Broadly speaking, what do you see as the most significant opportunity and challenge for the nonprofit sector in Marin right now?
That's a really good question. We're just going public next week with our 5-year update to the nonprofit study. The first one was done in 2008. This is the 2013.
Right.
And I was shocked at in some ways, how little changed around the challenges from 2008. Some of the usual issues around fundraising. Fundraising, no matter how good things are, fundraising is always an issue for people
That's
because
right.
it takes money to provide services. But some of the other issues and challenges are the way that we take care of our employees. Somehow, and this is one of the things that my soapbox is about professionalizing the field, that we have to pay good salaries and offer great benefits if we want these. We need good people to solve some of these heavy issues.
That's right.
So one of the challenges is personnel and turnover and strength of that personnel that we need to work on. Certainly marketing and the messaging and the managing of finances. And then it's also working together as a community. Because the answer isn't, I want to start a new nonprofit to everything. It's who's
Right.
out there doing it already that I can put my energy and efforts toward. Because we, at some point, start to compete with each other. But the opportunity is, particularly in a community like Marin, is we can really get some work done here. We've got great minds, great people,
Right.
great energy. We've got funding opportunities where we could actually solve some critical issues, and we have, and we can continue to.
Well, you've always encouraged collaboration and sharing and learning together, and I think that if you can keep that going,
Yes.
that you can help, especially some of the newer
Yeah.
nonprofits.
Yes, collaboration is a good thing.
Oh, good for
Not so
you.
easy, but important.
Now, this question is interesting because I think you could be president.
Ugh.
You shied away from politics. In fact, were very active in Congresswoman Lynn Woolsey's campaigns, right? So why is being part of the political process and helping elect women to office so important to you?
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with it, but
I've been active in politics since I was, I think, about 13, before I could even vote myself. First of all, I think voting is one of the most important things any human being
Yes.
can do. And I remember when my kids voted for the first time for the Obama election. And when they were little, I took them with me to vote.
Good.
I wanted to go into politics, but my skin is not thick enough. I take things way too personally. So I figured, since I can't do it myself, I would like to support other people doing it. I
wise.
think that politics has gotten very difficult and messy, and it's really hard to understand the issues. But yet again, it is so important because so many decisions are made that will impact our lives. So we have to be involved in order to know
Yes.
and to create a better world for the people coming up behind us. I also think women make fabulous leaders. It's certainly not balanced or even. And it's our job to make sure that we, not only women, but other diverse racial, sexual orientation, all those things are represented in our
Right.
world because it is our world.
That's right.
And this is not an old man's world anymore. And I don't mean that by age, I mean just men. And there's some great male leaders. So
No, I totally agree.
So I don't want to say anything bad about
no.
the male because I don't like them. But at the same time, women bring a certain compassion and empathy and motherhood and openness that I don't think we have enough of and balance of. So I'm all for getting more women leaders.
I'm glad you
The
feel
right,
that way.
but also the right male leaders.
That's right. Doesn't matter who it is.
I wish it wasn't so difficult to be an elected official. I wish it wasn't so expensive. I wish the system wasn't so messed up. That's a whole nother hour of talking with
Yes,
me.
it is.
Because I have
No.
some strong opinions about our political practices and how things are run and how much better I think they could be.
We
And
need to find a way to help it, to help people run
to
for
work
office.
together and
Yeah.
to work together once they're there.
Right.
That it's not about getting reelected.
I'm glad you're an activist in that area.
Thank you.
If you had one decision you made in your life that you would change, what would that be? And why?
There's only one thing that comes to mind anytime I think of that question, and that was raising my kids far away from my family.
Right.
It was hard, and my kids loved it, and they used to say to me, "How come, Mom, we don't live closer to our cousins?" And I'm afraid that maybe when they have kids, I told them already they can't make the same mistake I did. They have to live like next door to me. I think that it takes family members to help raise your family. I had a lot of friends that did it, helped me, but that's the one area where, particularly as my mom is ill right now and I have to go to the East Coast pretty regularly to visit
Very
her,
hard.
it's hard.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people do it because that's just the way it is, but for me personally, that would be the one thing, if I could go back and change, I would.
But Linda, this is a problem with that answer.
What?
If you did that, you'd be perfect. That would be
Yeah.
difficult to live with you.
I'm sure there would have been something else wrong with me.
Okay, so the last question is, what advice do you have for women in our community of all ages to be fully engaged in supporting the community?
volunteer, 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 serve on boards, read the paper, get involved politically, find those friends and mentors, build your professional networks, find somebody that you have a lot of respect for and ask, and let them model for you ways to go. But being involved, serving on a board is just such a great experience in so many ways. You learn so much about the world. But I would say volunteering is, to me, I mean, I can't say enough about that. After Katrina, I brought my whole family went to New Orleans, and we spent a week, and my kids' lives were never the same. And one of the things that I loved about that work so much was, for that period of time, I didn't think about anything else. Wasn't worried about work or paying my bills. It was all about
somebody else,
being of service to something else bigger than myself. And in many ways, that was such a relief. I got way more out of it than I think the people that I was building their home for. So that's not just for women, but we're also busy doing so many different things. And I think get out and do something for somebody else other than yourself.
I agree 100% with everything you just said, because I would say my career, with any success I had, I related to the volunteer work I did, and to the boards I sat on, the people I met. And like you said, I had a lot of models. If I hadn't been involved, I wouldn't have had those models. So you're absolutely in the most perfect job you could be in, because your heart and your whole life and your feelings are about that. So
I feel very blessed and lucky.
To you. Yes, I
haven't had a
know you
boring
do.
day in the 12 years I've been there.
And I'm sure your family hasn't had a boring day.
Yeah, you may get different answers from them, but yeah.
Well,
thank you, Joan.
Thank you, Linda, for sharing your life story and your incredible life with us.
Thank you.
I mean,
winning this award actually was very meaningful, and I don't take it lightly.
We're so glad. No, I know you don't. Well, and we just want to say that the Marin Women's Hall of Fame is a project of the YWCA of San Francisco and Marin. And if you would like to learn more about the Hall of Fame and our honorees, please visit www.ywcasf-marin.org. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.